collar.
That is brilliant. Barcode information and name on the collar. I am going to remember that because, yeah, when we get one of those, because now obviously that is on my to-do list, we are definitely going to do that. So folks, feel free to show your faces though. We love seeing you. And we love also even if you don't show your face, that's okay too. If you have questions throughout this, you can message in the chat. You can raise your hand. You can say, Hazel, stop talking and let some of us get a question in edgewise. That is totally the vibe of this, okay? We're here to help you learn. I am thrilled to be here today
Well,
because I
Kate,
get to
did you
talk.
see who else is on?
What was that?
Mute.
Oh.
Mute.
Probably not anywhere near her computer, but she's.
But I'm so thrilled to have you guys today. We get to talk to Lydia, who I met at a conference. Sometimes a lot of these things I start by saying I met them online. Lydia is one of the ones who I actually met in real life, which is so exciting. I hope I get to meet all of you guys in real life one day. And once I found out she was giving this presentation, I was intrigued and I was like stalking her around, being like, okay, where can I find this? And I went to the like two wrong rooms first. And I walked in a room and I was like late and I felt so bad. But then I sat down and she was super gracious about it and had an amazing presentation where I was like, yes, this is the cataloger I've been looking for. So not that my catalogers at my library aren't, well, the ones other than me are actually very good. But and I appreciate many of the other ones, but I think it's always nice to get together and really talk things. So with that, Lydia, you're so good. You brought slides to share today, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
if that's okay.
It is so okay. As these overachievers, we love you. It's great. And I think visuals are always lovely. So why don't we start off with you telling us just a little bit about you and having you share your slides and give your presentation. And then everyone, if you have questions, Lydia, should we save them to the end so that then you can kind of go back and through, or would you like them along the way?
Yeah, usually I like to wait until the end, but there's so much about this topic that I'm like kind of oblivious to that I would really appreciate people chiming in. So kind of either way, we'll just
We'll take it as how about
I think I'll make some of my points and then we can just kind of open things up.
that sounds great. And what I can do is I can monitor the chat as well so that if there is something, a clarifying question that anyone wants to ask, please just throw it in the chat and I'll say, oh, Lydia, hold on a second. You used an acronym. What does that mean? We don't know,
Right.
you know, so I can be that moderator. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
With that, everyone, thank you so much for coming. And don't hesitate to put those questions in chat. If you're too shy to ask the group, just ask me. Trust me, I get it. I've been there. You can message just me and I'll ask for you. Okay. So Lydia, take it away.
Okay. Thank you so much, Hazel. I'm Lydia Sampson here with Morris, our Library of Things cat, which I know the question always comes up about what's your favorite thing, and this would definitely be mine. I am the assistant director and also the head of technical services at the Morrill Memorial Library in Norwood, Massachusetts. And I've been here for about 7 years. Before that, I worked in an academic library, also as head of technical services, and then as assistant director, but still head of technical services. And there, we didn't call it a library of things, but we had, instructional technology that, we lent out and things that, really looking back, did, they did fit the bill. When I started at Norwood about a little over 7 years ago, we had somewhat of a library of things. We lent jigsaw puzzles and sort of a niche collection of many, many, many knit and crochet needles. And I sort of took on a pet project of expanding our library of things and kind of creating a monster. And now we have well over 700 individual items. Granted, a lot of those are, sort of the same category, but yeah, it's just really exploded and there's a lot of enthusiasm about it. And I've presented a few times specifically about the technical services perspective, because I think that's kind of neglected. And people are always asking questions, on listservs and behind the scenes. But I've wanted to address our niche with Library of Things. And like Hazel said, I met Hazel and Lisa and Robin and Kim and Karen all at NELA. We just nerded out together. But it's been great to be part of the mutual aid group. And I'm grateful to Hazel for kind of taking the lead on it. My presentation that you all saw at NELA was pretty heavily focused on technical services, physical processing, packaging, labeling, those kind of aspects of technical services, and had some content about cataloging. And there was a lot of interest, but then it wasn't the bulk of the presentation. So, but Hazel and I have been talking about cataloging issues, and I kind of, when I saw the blurb for today's talk, I realized it was kind of pitched as cataloging heavy. So I sort of pivoted and I still have all my slides from the original NELA presentation, but I kind of went off in a different direction. So if you want to share my screen, I can, this will take me off of the big screen and make me less nervous about showing my
So
face.
I can't share, so you have to share
Yeah,
your screen.
I've got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, but then
Yeah.
no, you're doing great. And also I still love your hair. I cannot not have
Thanks.
my growth. So
Okay. Got it? See it?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I just want to start with a disclaimer that I work in Massachusetts, as our library is part of the Minuteman Library Network. Massachusetts is very much network based for our public libraries. So we do a lot of centralized cataloging, copy cataloging, not original cataloging. The cataloging that we are doing in-house is a lot of local records, generic records. And also, I got my MLS back in 1997, so I am not up to speed on how so many things have changed over the years and changes in the standards. So in some ways, I kind of feel unqualified to talk about this. But in other ways, I think I might be the ideal person, because we all kind of are flying by the seat of our pants. So I want to show you a little bit about how we do things here, and maybe we can kind of talk about some possibilities and different ways that we approach things. And when it comes down to it, I would say the point of what we do, of what tech services does, is to make things discoverable and available. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, because books are things. DVDs are things. For time eternal, we have been lending things and making them discoverable. And it's not new, even having a library of things. If you look at archival materials, if you look at art, for this, this isn't brand new, and we do have, standardized fields that we can look to and examples that we can go back to. But books are different. than things in a lot of ways. There's overlap. There's a Venn diagram about what we care about and what we don't care about. um, so I wanted to kind of give you an overview of how things, let me see, how do I advance to the next? How do I advance to my next slide?
If you just click, it should be just like you have a normal screen.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
There you go, yeah.
So this is how we have innovative for our ILS, and we have a Aspen discovery layer now, which is relatively new for Minuteman. But this is how one of our records, for instance, translates into the public view. So there's a wide spectrum in our network of having individual records for Library of Things items versus these group records. I like having grouped records like recreational equipment or games or assistive technology, because I like the fact that a patron can go in and find something and then see this kind of alphabetical list. And if you if you scroll down, there's additional information that might come up in note fields, and then there's sort of another version of the list. And I feel like a lot of libraries are turning more toward having one record for one thing. I think in our network, there was especially a pivot when we adopted the Aspen Discovery Layer, because it allows for you to have a customized picture. And that would be great. Like you have book covers to be able to show the actual item, to show your bike rack in an image. So that's a trade-off. We supplement our library catalog with a Pinterest site in order to have something that's more visual. It's really not a great tool for the job, but it was kind of the best that we could find. And discussing it with other librarians, there's just not really an awesome tool for the job. So this is something that I think all of us are always struggling with, is, how granular to get in terms of a group record versus an individual record. Now, I can show you in terms of how we catalog these things. In Minuteman, some of this is your own decision and some of it are network standards. So the network decided that we would have some group categories, and if you did that, if you made a generic record, that the author would be your library and location. So yes, our recreational equipment is authored by the Morrill Memorial Library in Norwood, Mass. But that was kind of a group decision. And different libraries, we don't all add to this. So, Somerville will have their own, Newton will have their own. We have our own, equipment records. And some of these have gotten, for us, some of them have gotten really unwieldy. And I would love to break them down into different subcategories. But then, that's a big project that's, on the back burner, but something to take on eventually as your collection grows. So you can see this is the patron view, and then this is sort of how it translates behind the scenes to, what we're familiar with. So like I said, we have our, it's not ideal because we're not really an author, but the library name and town, that's where it fits in well. Recreational equipment in this example is our title, is our 245 title. But then in order to have that list for browsing, there are a lot of 246s. There's also a lot of 505s. And in order to make it, make a 505 note appear as a title that can be searched in a title search, you use that subfield T. And you do end up having, two kind of long lists, which seems redundant. But one reason I like them is because it's a way of sort of breaking up different names for different things. And, we know things have lots of names. You can call something a pressure washer or a power washer. So I sort of, choose one for the note field and something else for the 246 field. It's just kind of like a workaround so you don't have to keep repeating things in the same list. Um, Another thing I do is on any of our Library of Things records, I include a 246 for just Library of Things. So if you put in Library of Things as a title, you will get all of our categories in your results. So for recreational equipment, I also added 246s for yard games, for lawn games for kind of subcategories. And then you can see here, there's also a 500, a note that we use to indicate just these free form things, some items for Norwood pickup only, not sent in delivery. A 300 note for a description, like what this bibliographic record covers is recreational games, yard games, sporting equipment. I should probably add an addendum to that saying, see elsewhere for board games and card games. We're always trying to cross-reference things. And no matter what you do, it feels like you can't win because patrons can't find something or your staff can't find something. Like, I know we have this, but I can't find it. Where is it? And that's where, it's good to maintain our own control and be able to edit records on our own, because you can just like stick in another one there. So in terms of mark record translation, we have our 100 fields, and this is kind of, we make a lot of judgment calls. Is our library the author? Is the publisher the author? Is the producer the author? And when you are doing local records or generic records, as opposed to, uploading things to OCLC that, the entire world can use and download and repeat. You have more leeway. So I like not having like the weight of that responsibility. The 200s, like I said, these are where we're making those tough decisions about, do we call this a drill? Is the title drill? Is the title Black and Decker drill? Is the title household equipment, tools? This is where, we communicate with our staff, communicate with reference, communicate with patrons, communicate with circulation. Don't make assumptions, but try to figure out how are your patrons going to be discovering these things and what works best for you. In our 300 fields, there's also judgment calls about how much, if you're not sharing this with the entire world, but it's more localized, how much do you want to just kind of use plain language versus staying consistent and using syntax that we've been trained on, and using vocabularies and standards that already exist. I absolutely love bibliographic formats and standards. And I know that it's online and I can actually pull it up right here if you're not familiar with it. And maybe we want to put this URL in the chat. But I think I can really, go down a rabbit hole trying to, define different fields and subfields and how to best describe something. And, it's a matter of your, what kind of staffing do you have? What kind of time can you devote? What are the expectations? Are you, broadcasting your cataloging out into the wider world versus just using it, almost internally for your own community? But this is where you can get a lot of the vocabulary about, what is something called and how to keep it consistent. Go back to the big review. So yeah, everything that we, studied in library school, they controlled vocabularies. They actually, they are helpful, and it can kind of keep you on your toes to, keep referring back to those. And again, it's about not reinventing the wheel. We have all of this already. Lots of note fields, and note fields are awesome because they are, pretty, there's a lot of open-ended spaces there, where you can kind of do your own thing and have that freedom. The 505, like I mentioned, for titles is a really great one to use. But then there are kind of conventions, if you make up the title, or if you're getting the title from, it might have a different title in, um, the on the box versus somewhere else on the box versus, on the website. So you can indicate where different things are coming from. Often you'll see, a whole little blurb, a description, and that's going to come. You don't have to write that up yourself. It already exists. Don't reinvent the wheel. You can, crib that from whatever the item itself came with. And the manufacturer, creator really knows best how the thing should be described. So it's a good authoritative source. 600s are something I really, don't get into, but I was kind of trying to like review these. And I think they were kind of, drafted a lot for, back when the most library of things were archival material and memorabilia and, self-created. Like, now we talk about kits. We're always doing kits in library of things. But if you think about it, a collection of memorabilia from a person that you're, memorializing, that's essentially a kit. So that's another place where you can look and find some of the controlled vocabulary that might be useful. Now, if you want to get into, something, a record, a MARC record, which the idea of MARC records is really as a surrogate for the thing, the exact thing. And you can see here, like with a game, there is going to be this very detailed description. Same thing, another one is Scrabble. And, we're thinking about, 144 tiles. Does that really matter? Are we counting? And we are not at my library, we don't painstakingly count every single item. I sort of have a threshold of 5 or 6. If we want at circulation and we want our patrons to look at a contents note, whether it's on the sticker, on the package of an item, or whether it's the pop-up note that comes up when something is checked out, check for board, card deck, bag of dice and small parts, instructions. That's enough. We're not going to catalog Monopoly and say, look for, I forget what are the pieces, shoe, car, this many, denominations of money. that's a bridge too far. But do you want to be importing and using records when inevitably your item is not going to match with that? Uh, you're saying that you have 100 tiles, and you know that you're going to end up with a number different from that. Um, we're really, we're getting really nitpicky, but if you're kind of like OCD about it, then that's something to think about. But something that's nice about this, which you can also do in your own homemade records, is in this access field, having a link to a PDF of the instructions. Now, one thing to be careful about is if you're going to link to a URL that you're not monitoring, that could end up being a dead link. Another thing you can see here in this example is using subjects. And that's something I don't do. I don't put subject headings in any of our Library of Things records. You could, and those vocabularies do exist. I would want to think about, what's realistic. Again, what are your patrons doing? What do they want? Why are they looking for these things? I can see somebody searching for Scrabble, whether it's a title or a keyword or a subject. And it is appropriate that you would get literally a Scrabble game. Um, on the other hand, I don't know, like if somebody searches for crossword puzzles, do you think they really want to get Scrabble? I don't know. If somebody is searching for a companion robotic cat, um, do they care what color it is? I mean, can you just have a record that's for your companion cat? And cross-referencing it with robotic cat, assistive technology, things like can you bundle it under assistive technology, or do you need an individual record for the cat? To me, it seems like overkill if you have a full OCLC cataloging record, mark record for a tabby for the silver cat, for the tuxedo cat. But this is a whole spectrum. Just FYI, fun fact, the reason that was excited about these examples in particular is because I happen to live in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and I'm very proud of it. And you can see that Morris and his siblings and cousins and also Scrabble and Bananagrams all come from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, where we have Hasbro headquarters. But anyway, you can see just some of the other fields here in the notes. The title came from the instruction card, notes about how many players, about the age range. You can see there, there may or may not be call number fields. There may be an LC or a Dewey call number. We don't shelve our Library of Things by Dewey Decimal call number, but it is, a way of grouping like things together. Maybe not for actually putting on the shelf, but there might be other reasons why you would want to capture that. Something like Scrabble, there may be advantages to having different editions cataloged separately. You might want to know, I feel like Scrabble is just, too generic. You might want to know if it's the standard, if it's the turntable, or if it's a travel version. What do patrons care? Do they care about if it was published in 2007 or 2017? Not necessarily. when we get into the, searching for, another thing I noticed in WorldCat is searching for Library of Things. The categories that we get in Minuteman, we can do material types and item types, and there are, options for 3D object. Here in WorldCat, we have all books, visual, internet, sound. So Morris or our Black and Decker drill are visual. It's weird, in a lot of ways, we're always trying to fit square pegs into round holes and kind of doing the best we can. But a type of visual material that you can code is a toy. And there's no linguistic content, except maybe on the instructions. Here's a nice example of, cribbing the description from what the manufacturer gives you. And, some of this stuff is going to be searchable in keyword searches. So, if they're putting in, something about dementia or something that might come up. If you look at the descriptors, I don't know if if a patron were searching for American short hair cat, I don't know that they would, expect to get the robotic, to get Morris. If you're looking for robotic pets, then, that might be, a better one to tack on. I was thinking about parallels and things that already exist, because, I feel like for decades, we've taken the Dewey Decimal System, we've taken AACR2, we've taken RDA and kept kind of tweaking them as technology changes and as libraries change and as our needs change. So I'm thinking a lot about what kind of, instead of putting, the square peg into the round hole, what kind of parallels already exist. Hazel and I were kind of brainstorming about, future implications and it's a little mind-bending, but an example that I thought of was the harmonized tariff schedule. And I did confirm that there is there's no field or subfield in MARC or bibliographic formats and standards for the harmonized tariff schedule code, in case you were wondering. But see, for a drill, this already exists to a somewhat granular level. And so here, if we are, making our own versions of these things, we might be kind of reinventing the wheel, or maybe it's too late and we have already reinvented a wheel. But I'm trying to think of things where we can sort of partner with existing entities and make things more universal. For example, another one is, Amazon has this metadata somewhere. They have a structure that, delineates tools and home improvement, power and hand tools, power tools, drill driver. Now, so in my library, we have household equipment and that's it. It's getting unwieldy, so I would like to kind of break it into maybe tools and, home improvement versus kitchen, cooking equipment, and other things. But if I'm kind of creating something on my own, I often look to the retail and open web environment to think about what is this called. Marketers and, consumer research folks have already decided, the terminology that's most likely going to be used. And then in the longer descriptions, you can often see what sort of their 246 fields would be. Like it's called a drill driver, but you might call it cordless drill kit. And then when something comes with attachments and other things included, what might be the key information to put in? Again, how granular do we get, and how much do we describe something? Does somebody just want to drill? Okay, yes, sure. But if somebody's doing a bigger home improvement project, this just, a 20-volt might not do the trick. So that's pretty useful. You want to indicate what comes with something. Well, do you need to do full catalog with that? Or do you want to just have in your item record, we'll do call number drill, and then maybe in the volume field, say, 20-volt, whatever, something else. And then in the pop-up message that comes up in circulation, or maybe in an internal note on your individual item record, give a little more details about the contents, or about specifically what the item is. So here's another example. So here in Dewey, we have our own number, getting more and more granular. So all of these things, even if you might not, even if they might not be searched for by a patron or a staff member, they're all ways of linking things together. So, more and more as we have relevance ranking, and we have predictive technology, there are different ways that the searching mechanisms, the discovery mechanisms that we use can look for things that are close in range, or that are similar, or that are, broader or more granular. Here's an example of Adriana was asking, kind of before we got started, was talking about kits. And that's something, yes, Adriana.
Yes, thank you.
That's something where we were where there really isn't. You can't go into, if you're making up something, we have a Norwood kit. It's a bag, and it includes 2 or 3 different books about the history of Norwood, plus a couple of laminated maps and information sheets, or whatever, and it's called Norwood Kit. And we're not going to put that out on OCLC for people to download from WorldCat. We're not expecting anyone else to have that. We created it, so it's a local record. And so, the whole, the whole, like, OCLC doesn't even it doesn't even matter at all. It's not really even relevant. Then we have situations like this where for our GoPros, I bought, a big bundle like this 50 pack that I don't even think came with like a UPC code and like a bunch of, pretty packaging or anything. I think it was just like a big bag of GoPro stuff. And that would be way too unwieldy to keep track of. And you can see there's a lot of consumables in it. We don't want to, lend things with a bunch of like stickers and things that are only one use. Or if we do, we indicate, we have a vacuum sealer, we have a coin sorter, and there is a note saying, that bags and film not included. If somebody leaves their extra in there, fine, but we're not, we're just managing expectations. So something like this could be created, could be made into a few different smaller kits. But then again, you are, is the author or is the the corporate entity GoPro, or is it your library? Or again, we're trying to like fit things where they belong best, but it's not perfect. But ultimately, if we, go back to um, always go back, you get in the weeds, you go so far deep into the weeds, and then you're thinking, wait a minute, like this just has to be discoverable. And, when you're first putting something out there and occasionally, you want to go do an ongoing inventory, not do a massive one, once a year, twice a year, but it has to be an ongoing process. Um, you know, try to break it, like with technology, try to break it, see what happens. You know, look for something using a variety of different terms. Does it come up? Can you find it? Um, does it come up? Does it come up in your does it come up in your catalog if you have printed handouts, which I think really are important because I want people to have them at home in their junk drawer or something. Is it that? Is it there? If you have something like a browsing page, like a Pinterest page, does it come up? And are they called kind of consistently the same thing? And do you have does the information all match up? Then, on the other hand, if you find something, if you see something in the catalog, is it clear, like, okay, I look for it here and that's where I found it, and it was where I expected to find it. Um, was it on the shelf in the section that made sense? Um, is it, is it what I mean, we have kind of a crisis because we have, a record, an unwieldy record for equipment. And then we have a shelf location that is equipment, which is next to electronics. And there's like so much overlap. And, then when you search on the open web, it's more like, the terminology is really different, and it needs cleanup, but also it's never going to be perfect. So, how much can you invest in this? And then same thing with your labeling. Does your catalog and the thing itself and, every place, do the contents match? And this is where you have to be careful of, don't list out your, how you can, if you're going to indicate how many drill bits something has, then are you committed to, um, you know, counting those and having that accurate? Or do you want to have, a pack of drill bits or a board game with a note saying, let us know if any items are lost or missing? On jigsaw puzzles, we have a little sticker on the top, a fluorescent sticker, and it says missing pieces. And the person can check or they can write the number of missing pieces. We don't care, because if it gets returned and that is checked, then we're withdrawing it. We have so many puzzles and they're always cycling through, that we don't really care. Just tell us. But there are things where you do want them to be listed and indicated and counted because they do matter. And then, of course, part of the inventory is, does the physical item actually match with what's in the catalog / what's on the labeling, etc. And does everything work as it's supposed to? I already touched on replenishables, how much, and there might be something that when you buy it, when you see the packaging in the manufacturer's description, they'll list things that are replenishables. So there you have the issue where if you're being very literal and you're making a record that is designed to be an exact surrogate, then you're getting into hot water because it's going to be misleading as those things. It's just not realistic to keep things stocked in our environment. You probably know what I mean. That was a lot of talking. And like I said, I do, if I extend, I did keep my Neela slides after this, but I thought we'd kind of like explore this topic more. So I can go into more, we can go on tangents or talk about other library of things, tech services aspects, but let's
Oh
talk.
yes, we can have fun. No doubt about it. You guys haven't seen the half of the emails we've exchanged too on this. I started rambling to Lydia and she wrote back like, you're like, yes, I can get this. Like, like, so
Well,
it's
you said you said that you were like up at night, you like woke up in the middle of the night and were like jotting down all these like brainstorms and ideas. And I'm like,
yeah.
I can see that.
What we can do when we can't sleep, right? So, oh, wait a minute, we could solve this system. So I definitely have a few questions. Folks, now is the time to please unmute yourself, raise your hand. Let's ask some questions. And yeah, I mean, I could listen to you speak, Lydia. I think, thank you so much. I just love the points you bring up. Like, okay, what really matters to your patrons? Like going back to your users, what really matters to your staff and your patrons? I think that's just so important to keep in mind because had I had that advice, 9 years ago when we started doing this, I mean, we tried to do that, right? But I feel like it's an ongoing process, like you were saying. Like we're always constantly trying to do better and to be responsive to what our patrons call the item, what our patrons think of the item. And that's going to change over time too as you get more items. When we had 100 items, people were calling it just the library of things. But now that we have 1,400 items, people are like, no, I need the specific hardware bit. They're treating us more like a hardware store. Or no, I don't want that power washer. I want that pressure washer. And we're like, okay.
Well,
Well,
another thing that I was just thinking about, actually, when I was driving in today, I was thinking about it, how there's sort of that like phenomena where libraries were, integrating their catalogs with, other sort of parts of the open web. And there was this like breakthrough where you could search for a book and it would come up, Amazon, the publisher's website, some other bookstore, Barnes and Noble, and at this library. Like that is so amazing that like, really is like integrating us back into people's daily lives. And then I was kind of thinking like, wow, what if you were looking for, like, what if you were browsing Amazon or looking for a Black & Decker 20-volt drill, and it would be like, oh, you can get this at Lowe's or Home Depot or in your library.
yes, yes. And I think that's the place that we could get to here, eventually. And how do we make that happen though on this IT front with, that's
Yeah,
part of this
yeah. People,
conundrum.
it's a way of meeting people where they are, because as you all know, when people don't know about the library things and they discover it, they're so amazed. It's this best kept secret. They're surprised. And but we have to do some kind of outreach, they have to find us first to learn the secret. And, if we're kind of like sneaking into their open web browsing or their shopping, then, that would be kind of revolutionary.
It's where we're going to go from here, little by little. And that's why we're all together on this call, right? Is to learn from each other and level each other up. Um, so I have a couple of silly questions for you that you might be able to answer that come right out of your presentation. So believe it or not, I never, even though we had our library of things right next to like the section they were in, like science and technology, we put them generally next to science and technology. Crafts and hobbies, we put them generally next to crafts and hobbies. And but then when we converted to Dewey, I don't think it even occurred to me to put Dewey numbers on our library of things. Um, and not for better or for worse, now all the library of things are together. That's what it is. But so there, I looked up when after you're talking, the library that Dewey does have some numbers for some of these things, but of course Dewey wasn't around for most of these items. And same with the Library of Congress number system. So do you know if there's any ongoing efforts to actually improve that section in those numbers? I don't. And I realize that's something I'm going to have to Google later if you don't know the answer.
No, I was thinking of it, and there might be somebody here who, knows more
Yeah.
about it or something. We'll have to, nerd out exploring together. But I was thinking of it more as like, matching up um physical items to the vocabulary. Like if this
Totally.
is, you know, in the, 700s, you have sporting equipment, and you have, baseball. So you're gonna, catalog a baseball
Right.
bat with under baseball. Which I mean, it makes sense, but then you're gonna get a ton of stuff that like, how does it, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe everything fits easily into a category. And I know a lot of things, a lot of books don't fit neatly into one category and they drive us crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love also how you mentioned the alternative titles. Oh wait, where'd you go? Well, I will say while she gets back on, I love how she mentioned the alternative titles, because I think that really we've used a lot at our library. So any of you who have, I don't know if any of you have been cataloging or have other questions. It looks like she just bopped off for a minute. It almost looks like her internet just died. So we'll get her back on. But in the meantime, do any of you folks have some questions we want to put into the chat? We do use alternative titles, but now I want to use a lot more. Yeah, I can't recommend them enough. We found out here, like for example, we have a weed whacker is what some people call it, but then other people call it a whippersnipper, and other people call it a trimmer tool. And every time someone calls it something, yeah, or a string trimmer, exactly. And every time someone calls it something, we've actually trained even our circulation staff now to just add in another title, add in another title, and add in another title. So, and that has been a game changer for us. So I think as soon as I saw her actually talk about those alternative titles in that last presentation, I was like, that is it, that is all the stuff I needed. There you are. I was just
Sorry, my I'm using the reference laptop and apparently it doesn't hold a charge very long. So I just got booted and had to plug in.
happened to us all. Trust me, it's happened to us all. We were just talking about your alternative that you kudos to you on mentioning that alternative titles, because as I was saying, that has been a game changer for us once we started using alternative titles, and then having you call it out in that presentation, I felt so justified being like, yes, this is the solution for right now with Mark.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really don't know what we would do without that.
Yeah. So another question for you, and again, folks, just chime in the chat here if you have questions as well. This is something I know you and I have talked about, but I think we should voice it here too, which is alternative titles can do so much, but oh my gosh, multilingualism, calling things different things. It has been this has been something that I don't think we have the solution to it, but I don't know if you've been frustrated by, how like a pot or a cooking utensil or even the game like Mancala, it's actually called Aware and it's called this and it's called all these different things in different languages. Um, how have you dealt with that? Or have you just like put in a few and called it good? Because that's what I've done, is what I'll say.
Yeah, it's something that like I have, and yeah, it's crazy because I think we're thinking so much, especially with like, crazy things happening in, politics and stuff like that. We're thinking a lot about, accessibility and, reaching out to like our, various communities and everything. Um, but like with programming and with print and with information and library things gets, sort of left out of the loop. And so it's something like, and it's almost like it's too scary. Um, I can't even begin to, think about how to broach that.
Same, same. No, I feel the
Mm.
same way. I feel very overwhelmed with it because, um, you know, this one like tawa pan is actually a skittle, which is actually a griddle, which is actually and depending upon what culinary tradition you're coming from, would be called something else. So, and I don't want to not recognize those other traditions, but at the same time, I know I'm not doing any of them justice. I can't even spell in English most of the time, so I'm already messing that up. Uh, Yeah. So great comment from Adriana says, I appreciate the permission to create our own bib record and then keep it local. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate
Yeah.
that too.
I mean, if you think about it, you're not going to be sending this stuff, across the country in interlibrary loan. So, I mean, it's not necessary, the reason that we do that is either for, sharing and interlibrary loan purposes or for, you know, sharing the work, like, so we don't have to, all create our own separate records for the same thing, but it's a lot different, when you're talking about, a bestseller book versus, some obscure thing. And especially when, there are things that we have so much information on. You buy a guitar and like you have the instruction manual and the make and model and it has like a UPC code and um but whereas somebody might somebody donates a cake pan,
Mhm.
you don't know any of the metadata behind that cake pan, so you have no choice but to just say like it's a cake pan shaped like a heart.
And I
We
understand. Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, a book. Absolutely. We all buy the same book and we all share the same records, but kits are so personal, so local to your patrons. Um, you add things for them. And so it's great to keep it local and not, bother the rest of library land with what you have. So thank you for that. I
Yeah.
appreciate all the advice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, another thing that just that just made me think of is something that I did that I stopped doing was we have some things like kits with a book included in them, or a CD or whatever. So we have a picnic basket, and it has wine tools and a mat, and it has a book of like cookbook like picnic recipes. um, we have a bird watching kit, and has a field guide, and it has a CD of like the bird sounds. And so I had so I had in the group records for kits or for whatever categories, those were from I put in ISBN field, like multiple ISBN fields. So I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking like, oh, that would be really cool. It would be really cool if somebody looked up this field guide to birds, and it's like, oh wow, okay, this one, this edition, and oh, it is there included in this kit. Now that's really cool instead of in terms of discoverability. But what happened in our network is when we got the this discovery layer that I love so much, um, it assigns a picture, like a book cover, to a bibliographic record. So for anything like that, like if you looked up musical instruments, a book cover came up and it was like, how to play the ukulele. And it was really misleading because it looks like you're having a book result and you're not seeing like, no, this is all of our musical instruments. It's just one, how-to book that's in one of the items. Um, so, for the time being, I kind of deleted all of those out of that. But like I said, that's kind of like there are so many ways, there are so many unique identifiers. Um, and they have different structures, and there's so much, repetition. Like I was thinking, a UPC code, like the barcode on items we buy every day. Um, I didn't know how they were formed, so I actually looked it up. The 12 digits are broken down into a 6-digit company prefix, a 5-digit item number assigned by the manufacturer, and a final check digit. So that sounds really familiar because with ISBNs, you have, the 978 or 979, which is basically just like a code, indicating if there's like a corresponding 10-digit ISBN. And then the like group or country, the geographical identifier, and then the publisher within that group and the item and a check digit. So it's like the same thing. And then, the Dewey numbers are so similar to the, harmonized tariff schedule. So there's a lot of there's a lot of repetition there where, imagine like a science fiction world where like we just have one massive code for anything.
Oh, you got me. You got me on imagine a science fiction world. Yeah, I'm in. I'm in. Well, on that note, though, okay, so we can do a lot more geeking out about this later. I think collectively as a group, like it's exciting to think about where we could go from here. I think there's a lot to be said. So when you're on the Lot Mutual Aid listserv, if you come up with some cool ideas, share it, because even though to Adriana's point, like you can have these local records and you don't have to share them. But the idea is like together by sharing that diversity and then creating some standards will level each other up, right? And maybe we will have it sometime so that we can go and say, okay, if we all do this, then they'll be able to find our drills. They'll be able to find our craft kits. I think that, Lydia, that was like a great call out of what this could be. And I think there's ways we can do that even sooner by sharing like repair videos and how to in how to use it videos and things like that, and maybe linking them in records. So I happen to know there's more on that to come on this list. So
yeah, it's been great to meet so many people from like all over the place. I mean we're very lucky in Massachusetts with our networks, and the Minuteman network is really great, and it lends itself to so much cooperation, and I think sometimes we take it for granted. And it's been really interesting meeting a lot of you who are on your own little islands, like but then it also leads to innovation, because you're paving new paths, and it's been really cool to learn about.
yeah, well, right back at you. Really, really grateful you're only a couple hours away from where I'm going to come visit sometime. So, and everyone else, far or near, we can visit virtually and eventually in person. So I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. I know you're all still here and hanging on, and I could geek out on this for a long time, I'm sure, especially as we got more and more folks coming. But Lydia, thank you so very much for taking the time. And for sharing with us, and for also you've been really active on the listserv answering people's questions. I really appreciate that too. I've learned a bunch. And yeah, and actually so many folks are throwing out thank yous in the chat. So everyone also, thank you for showing up. We can't do these if people don't show up, because I would feel really bad asking someone to come speak if it was just me they were talking to. So yeah, keep showing up each month. And if you people you want us to reach out to, let us know, because there's amazing, kind, clever, good librarians like you out there that we can all help each other out. So yay.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Hazel, so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Lydia. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.